The sound of my own voice filled the dining room, and I watched my son Jerome's face turn from cocky confidence to pure panic in less than 3 seconds. "Mama's forgetting things left and right," his voice crackled through my 10-year-old grandson Noah's tablet speaker. "Last week she called me twice about the same doctor's appointment. This morning she couldn't remember where she put her glasses. They were on her head." My daughter-in-law Candace's laugh came next, sharp and cold. "Jerome, baby, your mama's only 68. My grandmother lived in her own house until 92. "That's different," Jerome's recorded voice continued. "Look, once we get her into Sunshine Meadows, we can sell this house. Do you know what properties in this neighborhood are going for? We could clear $400,000 easy." "That's enough to pay off our mortgage, get Destiny that car for her 16th birthday, and still have money left over." The entire family sat frozen around my dining table, the same table where I'd served Sunday dinner every week for the past 40 years. My sister Wilhelmina's fork clattered against her plate. My brother Claude's mouth hung open. Jerome's sister, my daughter Yvette, slowly turned to stare at her brother with a look that could have stripped paint off walls. But it was my grandbaby Noah who held that tablet steady, his little brown hands gripping it tight, his jaw set in a way that reminded me so much of his grandfather, my late husband Raymond, who'd taught that boy to stand up for what's right before cancer took him 3 years ago. "There's more," Noah said quietly, his voice cutting through the shocked silence. Jerome lunged across the table. "Boy, you better turn that off, right?" "Sit down, Jerome," Wilhelmina's voice boomed out. My baby sister might have been only 65, but she'd raised 6 kids and taught high school for 30 years. When Willie spoke in that tone, people listened. "Let the child finish." Jerome sank back into his chair, and Candace had gone pale, her eyes darting toward the door like she was calculating her escape route. Noah pressed play again. "What about your mother's feelings?" That was Candace's voice, and for a second I thought maybe my daughter-in-law had a conscience after all. Then she continued, "What if she fights us on this?" Jerome's laugh on the recording made my stomach turn. "Mama won't fight. She's too passive, always has been. Besides, we'll frame it like we're worried about her safety. Get Dr. Bao Chen to write something about her declining cognitive function. I already talked to him about it. He said he could recommend an evaluation." "You already talked to her doctor?" Candace sounded impressed. "Baby, you really thought this through." "I've been planning this for 6 months, Jerome said, and I could hear the pride in his voice. "Ever since that realtor told me what houses on this street are selling for. Mama doesn't need all this space anyway. And honestly, Sunshine Meadows is nice. They have bingo on Thursdays." My granddaughter Destiny, Jerome's 16-year-old daughter, stood up so fast her chair fell backward. "Daddy?" Her voice cracked. "Daddy, you were going to put Grandma away so I could get a car?" "Destiny, baby, sit down," Jerome started. "Don't you baby me!" Tears streamed down Destiny's face. "Grandma B helped you pay for our house when the bank was going to foreclose. She watched us every day after school. She taught me how to braid hair, how to make her famous peach cobbler, how to—" Her voice broke completely, and she ran from the room sobbing. Noah stopped the recording. In the silence that followed, I could hear the clock ticking on the mantel. The same clock Raymond and I had bought at an estate sale in 1982. Before we continue, please drop a comment if you've ever experienced something like this. We'd love to hear your story, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. Let me tell you how we got here, to this moment where my own son's betrayal was broadcast to everyone who mattered. Because this story doesn't start with Noah's recording. It starts 3 months ago, with a pair of reading glasses and a lie that almost cost me everything. I was in my garden on a Tuesday morning in late June, transplanting my tomato seedlings, when Jerome's car pulled into my driveway. This wasn't unusual. He worked from home most days and would sometimes stop by for lunch. What was unusual was the expression on his face when he walked around to the backyard. Concerned, serious, the way he'd looked at his daddy during those final hospital visits. "Mama, you feeling okay?" I wiped dirt from my hands onto my garden apron. "Feel fine, baby. Why?" "You called me 4 times this morning." I frowned. "I called you once around 9 to see if you wanted me to make extra ribs for Sunday dinner since you said Candace's parents might come." "Mama." Jerome pulled out his phone and showed me his call log. 4 calls from my number, all between 8:47 and 9:23 a.m. I stared at that phone screen, feeling cold despite the summer heat. "Jerome, I swear to you, I only called once." "Maybe you pocket dialed?" He said it gently, but I could see something calculating behind his eyes. "Or maybe, Mama, have you been feeling forgetful lately?" "No more than usual for a woman my age," I said firmly. "Jerome Washington, I know I only called you once." But he'd planted the seed of doubt, and over the next few weeks, that seed grew into a thorny vine that wrapped around my confidence. My reading glasses went missing. I always kept them on my nightstand, but one morning they weren't there. I found them 3 days later in the kitchen drawer with the dish towels, a place I would never put them. Jerome happened to stop by that afternoon, and I mentioned it. "That's the 3rd time this month you've misplaced something, Mama." "3rd time?" "Your car keys last week, remember? And you couldn't find your church hat the Sunday before." I did remember the car keys. I'd found them in my purse, right where I always put them, but only after Jerome helped me search for 20 minutes. And the church hat had been in the hall closet, though I could have sworn I'd hung it in my bedroom closet like always. "Maybe you're right," I said slowly. "Maybe I am getting a bit scattered." "There's no shame in it, Mama. It happens to everyone eventually." But it didn't feel like eventually. It felt like suddenly, like waking up one morning in a stranger's body. Then came the doctor's appointment incident that Jerome had mentioned on the recording. Dr. Chen's office called to confirm my annual checkup for Thursday at 2 p.m. I wrote it down. Thursday, 2 p.m., in red ink on my kitchen calendar. But when Thursday came, I showed up at the office and the receptionist told me my appointment had been changed to Tuesday, 2 days earlier, and I'd missed it. "But nobody called me," I insisted. The receptionist, a young woman named Alicia, who'd always been sweet to me, pulled up my file. "Mrs. Washington, we show 2 calls to your number. 1 was answered. You confirm the change." I stopped myself. Had I? Was I losing my mind? I rescheduled and drove home in a daze, questioning everything. That evening, Jerome called. "Heard you missed your appointment with Dr. Chen." "How did you—" "His office called me as your emergency contact. Mama, we need to talk about this." "About you living alone in that big house." "I'm fine, Jerome." "Are you?" His voice was soft, concerned, the voice of a loving son. "Mama, I'm worried. Maybe it's time to think about other options. Places where someone can keep an eye on you, make sure you don't miss appointments or leave the stove on or—" "I have never left the stove on in my life." The words burst out of me. "Yet," Jerome said quietly. "But Mama, what about tomorrow? Next week? What happens when you do?" I hung up on him, the first time I'd ever done that to one of my children. Then I sat at my kitchen table and cried, because what if he was right? What if I was losing myself piece by piece and didn't even realize it? That's when Noah came to my rescue, though I didn't know it yet. My grandbaby started spending more time with me after that. He'd ride his bike to my house after summer camp, help me in the garden, sit with me while I cooked. He was a quiet child, thoughtful like his granddaddy Raymond had been, always watching and thinking. One afternoon in mid-August, he asked me, "Grandma B, do you really forget things a lot?" "Your daddy thinks so. But do you?" I looked at my grandson, really looked at him. "Noah, honey, I don't think I do. But everyone keeps telling me I am, so maybe—" Grandpa Raymond used to say, "Don't let people write your story for you." Noah said it matter-of-factly, the way kids do when they're repeating something important an adult told them. He said people will try to tell you who you are, but you're the only one who really knows. My eyes filled with tears. Your granddaddy was a wise man. The wisest, Noah agreed. Then casually, like he was asking about the weather. Grandma, does Dad come over here when you're not home? The question caught me off guard. Sometimes he waters my plants if I'm at church or visiting your Auntie Willie. Why? Noah just shrugged, but something flickered in his eyes. Just wondering. A week later, I came home from my Tuesday morning Bible study to find Jerome's car in my driveway. He was just leaving, looked startled to see me. Mama, I thought you had Bible study until noon. We finished early. Pastor Denise had a dentist appointment. What are you doing here? Oh, I thought I'd check your smoke detector batteries. But you just did that last month. Better safe than sorry. He kissed my cheek and practically jogged to his car. Inside, I found my reading glasses in the freezer, tucked behind the ice cream. I stood there staring at them, and something cold and horrible began to dawn on me. But I pushed it away. Jerome was my son, my firstborn. The baby I'd rocked through colicky nights, the little boy who'd brought me dandelions and called them flowers, the man who'd sobbed in my arms when his daddy died. He wouldn't gaslight his own mother. Would he? Noah started bringing his tablet everywhere he came to visit. I thought he was just playing games or watching videos like kids do. I didn't realize he'd turned it into a surveillance device until the day everything changed. It was a Saturday in early September, blazing hot. I'd gone to help my sister Willie pick out fabric for her church's anniversary quilt. Noah had asked to stay at my house, said he wanted to work on a Lego set in the cool basement. You sure, baby? You'll be here alone for a couple hours. I'm 10, Grandma. I'll be fine. Besides, I have my tablet if I need to call. What I didn't know was that Jerome had a key to my house, and he'd been waiting for an opportunity like this. What I didn't know was that Noah suspected his daddy was up to something and had set up his tablet to record audio while he hid in my laundry room. What I didn't know was that my grandbaby was about to capture evidence that would expose my son's betrayal and save me from losing everything. When I got home 2 hours later, Noah was sitting at my kitchen table with his tablet, his face serious and sad, in a way no 10-year-old's face should be. Grandma B, he said quietly, I need to show you something, but it's gonna hurt. And then he played me the recording of my son and daughter-in-law, standing in my own kitchen, planning to rob me of my independence, my home, and my dignity, all for the price of a teenager's car and some mortgage relief. I listened to the whole thing twice, my hands shaking, my heart breaking. Noah, baby, I finally managed to say. We can't let your daddy know you have this. Not yet. I know, Grandma. His eyes were bright with unshed tears. Grandpa Raymond also told me that sometimes you have to wait for the right moment to tell the truth. He said the truth is like medicine. You gotta give it when it'll do the most good. Smart boy. Brilliant boy. My Raymond's grandson through and through. Then we wait, I said, for the right moment. That moment came 3 weeks later, at our family's monthly Sunday dinner, when Jerome decided to make his move in front of everyone. Which brings us back to now, to this moment, with Jerome's lies exposed and my family staring at him in horror and disgust. My son stood up slowly, his chair scraping against my hardwood floor. That recording, it's out of context. Mama, we were just talking, just exploring options. You called her passive, Jerome. Yvette's voice was ice cold. You said she wouldn't fight back. You talked to her doctor behind her back, Claude added, standing up to his full 6'3" height. You've been moving her things around, making her think she's losing her mind. I never? The glasses in the freezer? I spoke for the first time since the recording ended, my voice steady and clear. That was you, wasn't it? You have a key. You've been coming over when I'm not here, moving my things. Calling your own phone from my number when I'm in the garden and can't hear it ring. Jerome's face went through several expressions before settling on cornered animal desperation. Mama, I swear, I was just worried about you. Liar! Wilhelmina slammed her hand on the table. Boy, I watched your mama raise you better than this. Your daddy must be spinning in his grave. At the mention of Raymond, Jerome flinched. Candace grabbed her purse. We should go. Sit down, Candace. This time it was my voice, and I barely recognized it. Strong, commanding, the voice of a woman who'd had enough. You're not going anywhere until we finish this conversation. But Jerome's phone rang, cutting through the tension. He grabbed it like a lifeline, looked at the screen, and his face went even paler. It's the alarm company, he said. There's been a break-in at our house. He and Candace rushed out, but not before I caught the look on Noah's face. The smallest, quickest smile that disappeared so fast I almost thought I'd imagined it. Almost. My grandbaby had one more trick up his sleeve, and somehow I knew that this night was far from over. After Jerome and Candace rushed out, my dining room erupted. I cannot believe that boy has lost his natural mind, trying to put Mama B away like she's some... Everybody hush! Wilhelmina's voice cut through the chaos. She turned to me, her eyes soft with concern. Beatrice, baby sister, are you okay? Was I okay? My son had tried to gaslight me into thinking I was losing my mind so he could steal my house. My daughter-in-law had laughed about it. They'd planned it for 6 months while smiling in my face at Sunday dinners. No, I said honestly. But I will be. Noah came to stand beside me, slipping his small hand into mine. Grandma, there's something else I need to tell you. The break-in? I asked quietly. He nodded, looking guilty and defiant all at once. I didn't break anything, I promise. But I know where Dad keeps his office files. Last week when Mom took Destiny shopping, I went through his desk. Grandma, he has papers, plans. He's been talking to that nursing home for months, and... He swallowed hard. He forged your signature on some kind of financial power of attorney form. The room went silent again. He did what? Yvette's voice was deadly quiet. I took pictures of everything, Noah continued, pulling up his tablet. And I emailed them to myself. But I wanted to make sure they were somewhere Dad couldn't delete them, so I might have set off their alarm system on purpose so he'd have to go home and see that I was in his office. I left the file drawer open. He'll know someone was looking. Oh, baby, I breathed. He's going to be so angry. Let him be angry, Claude said firmly. That boy committed fraud, forgery. That's criminal. Wilhelmina was already pulling out her phone. I'm calling Deacon Morris. His daughter Shanice is a lawyer, handles elder abuse cases. If Jerome forged B's signature, he's going to wish he'd never thought of this mess. While Willie made the call, Yvette came around the table and wrapped me in a hug so tight I could barely breathe. Mama, I'm so sorry. I should have seen something was wrong. I should have known. How could you know? I pulled back to look at my daughter. He had me believing it. I was starting to think I really was losing my mind. But you're not, Noah said firmly. Grandma, you remember everything. You never forget my birthday. You know everyone's favorite foods. You can recite every recipe from Grandpa's mama's cookbook by heart. Dad was lying. Destiny came back into the room then, her eyes red and swollen. Grandma B, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know what they were planning. When Dad said I'd get a car for my birthday, I thought he meant he'd saved up or something. I would never want you to lose your house. I opened my arms and she ran to me. This girl who was almost grown but still needed her grandmother's comfort. I know, baby. This isn't on you. Shanice can see us first thing Monday morning, Wilhelmina announced, hanging up her phone. B, you're going to need to gather any legal documents you have, deed to this house will, any papers Jerome might have asked you to sign recently. I haven't signed anything, I said. That's what scares me. If Noah's right and Jerome forged my signature, then he's committed a felony, Yvette finished. Mama, we're going to fix this. We're going to protect you. My phone rang. Jerome. I stared at it for a long moment before answering on speaker. Mama. His voice was tight with barely controlled rage. Where is Noah? He's with me. Why? Because someone broke into my office and went through my private files. And coincidentally, my son was at your house alone this afternoon while Candace and I were at the store. Jerome, what kind of files are we talking about? I kept my voice steady. A pause. Personal files. Business documents. Nothing that concerns you. Nothing that concerns me? I felt something shift inside me, a lifetime of being passive and accommodating cracking like old paint. Or everything that concerns me, like forged power of attorney documents with my signature on them? The silence on the other end of the phone stretched so long I thought he'd hung up. I don't know what Noah told you. Noah didn't tell me anything. He showed me pictures, documents, your handwriting trying to copy mine. How long did it take you to practice, Jerome? How many times did you trace my signature before you felt confident enough to forge it? Mama? Listen. No, you listen. You come to my house tomorrow at 10 a.m. Your sister will be here. Your Uncle Claude will be here. Your Aunt Willie will be here, and you're going to tell us the truth about everything, or I'm going to that lawyer Monday morning and I'm pressing charges. Do you understand me? I'd never spoken to my son like that in his entire 43 years of life. From the shocked silence on the other end, he'd never expected to hear it. Yes, ma'am, he finally said, his voice small. After I hung up, my hands were shaking. Yvette took the phone from me gently. Mama, you were magnificent. I was terrified, I admitted. Being brave doesn't mean not being scared, Claude said. It means doing what's right even when you're scared to death. Raymond used to say that. He did. My Raymond had a saying for everything, and I missed him so much in that moment, it physically hurt. We spent the rest of the evening going through my documents. I kept everything organized in a fire safe in my bedroom closet. The deed to the house, my will, Raymond's life insurance papers, birth certificates, everything. We spread it all out on my bed and went through it piece by piece. Mama, when's the last time you updated your will? Yvette asked, studying the document dated 2019. After your daddy passed. Why? Because this leaves everything split between Jerome and me. If something happened to you and Jerome had gotten you declared incompetent with that forged power of attorney. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. He would have controlled everything, I finished quietly. My house, Raymond's life insurance money, the savings account, all of it. But why? Destiny's voice was anguished. Why would Dad do this? You guys aren't poor. You have good jobs. The house is nice. Greed, Wilhelmina said bluntly. Baby girl, sometimes people get an idea in their head about what they deserve, what they're entitled to, and it eats away at their decency until there's nothing left but wanting. But she's his mother, Destiny whispered. And that makes it even worse, Yvette said softly. Noah had been quiet, sitting in the corner of my bedroom with his tablet. Grandma B, there's something else in the pictures I took. We all turned to look at him. Dad has emails from a real estate agent. They've already been showing this house. There are photos online and everything. They were planning to list it as coming soon in October. October, next month. They'd been that confident they could get me declared incompetent and moved out in a matter of weeks. Send those pictures to me, Yvette said, her voice hard. Send everything. Jerome isn't just going to explain himself tomorrow. He's going to account for every single piece of this scheme. That night, after everyone left, I sat in Raymond's old recliner, the one I couldn't bring myself to get rid of, and let myself cry. Really cry. Deep sobs that came from somewhere buried so deep I hadn't known it existed. I cried for the son I thought I'd raised, the one who used to bring me flowers from the garden and tell me I was the best mama in the world. I cried for the trust that had been shattered, for the months of self-doubt and fear Jerome had put me through. I cried for my late husband, who'd worked 2 jobs for 30 years to buy this house and would be heartbroken to know his son wanted to sell it for car money. But mostly, I cried because I was angry, furious, and I'd been raised to be nice, to be accommodating, to put everyone else's comfort before my own righteous anger. Well, I was done with that. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise and did something I hadn't done in months. I cooked. Real cooking, the kind Raymond used to love. I made my grandmother's buttermilk biscuits from scratch, fried chicken, cheese grits, collard greens, and candied yams. I set my dining room table with my good china, the set my mother-in-law had given me when Raymond and I got married. Wilhelmina arrived first, took one look at the spread, and hugged me tight. "That's right, baby sister. We're going to face this with dignity and full stomachs." By 9:30, my house was full. Yvette and her husband Marcus, Claude and his wife Nadine, Willie, Noah and Destiny, who'd insisted on being there, and Pastor Denise from my church, who Willie had called because she said we needed spiritual authority present for what was about to happen. At exactly 10 a.m., Jerome's car pulled into the driveway. He came in alone. Candace, apparently, had suddenly remembered she had somewhere else to be. Jerome looked terrible, like he hadn't slept, his clothes wrinkled, his eyes red. For a second, just a second, I felt that old instinct to comfort him, to ask what was wrong. Then I remembered what he'd done, and that instinct died. "Sit down, Jerome," I said, gesturing to the one empty chair at the table. He sat. Looked around at all the serious faces staring at him. "Mama, I can explain." "Then explain," Yvette cut him off. "Explain how you've been gaslighting our mother for months. Explain the forged power of attorney. Explain why this house is already being shown to potential buyers." Jerome's face went through several emotions: anger, fear, defiance, before settling on something that might have been shame. "I was trying to help." "Liar," Claude said flatly. "I was. Mama, you don't need this big house. You're alone here, and it's too much space, too much maintenance." "That wasn't your decision to make." Pastor Denise's voice was gentle but firm. "Jerome, I've known you since you were in the church nursery. This isn't the man your father raised. This isn't the man God called you to be. My father worked himself to death for this house." Jerome's voice rose. "He missed my football games, my graduation, family vacations, all to pay for a mortgage on a house that's too big for one person. And now, Mama's just supposed to sit here alone in it while Yvette and I struggle with our own bills?" "You're not struggling," Yvette said coldly. "You and Candace take 3 vacations a year. You drive a BMW. Don't pretend this is about need." "It's about fairness," Jerome slammed his hand on the table. "This house is worth $400,000. That's my inheritance sitting here depreciating while Mama rattles around in it alone." The room went silent. "Your inheritance," I repeated slowly. "That's what this is about? You can't wait for me to die, so you decided to help the process along by having me declared incompetent?" "That's not... I didn't mean..." "Yes, you did," I said, and my voice didn't shake at all. "You meant every word. You looked at your mother and saw a bank account. You looked at the house your father died providing and saw a down payment on your daughter's car. Mama..." "Don't mama me, Jerome Washington. You forged my signature. You colluded with my doctor. You moved my things around to make me think I was losing my mind. You called your own phone from my house to make it look like I was confused. You betrayed me in every way a son can betray a mother." Jerome's face crumpled. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Candace kept talking about how much the house was worth, and we had bills, and Destiny wanted a car, and it just seemed like you wouldn't miss it. Like you'd probably be happier somewhere smaller anyway. So you decided for me." I stood up, looking down at my firstborn child. You took away my choice, my agency, my dignity. You made me doubt my own mind. Do you have any idea what that feels like, Jerome? To question your own sanity? To wonder if you're losing yourself?" He was crying now, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no urge to comfort. Just a cold, clear certainty about what came next. "Noah, show him the pictures." My grandson pulled up his tablet and slid it across the table. Jerome stared at the photos of his own documents, his own forged signature, his own damning emails. "You have two choices," I said quietly. "Choice 1, you make this right. You contact that real estate agent and tell them this house is not for sale. You destroy every copy of that forged power of attorney. You transfer the deed to this house into a living trust that names Yvette and Noah as trustees, not you. You put it in writing that you have no claim to this property during my lifetime or after, and you stay away from me until I decide, if I decide, that I can trust you again." "And choice 2? Jerome's voice was barely a whisper. "Choice 2. I press charges. Forgery, fraud, elder abuse, conspiracy. You go to prison, you lose your job, you lose everything. And I still put the house in a trust you can't touch." "Mama, please." "Those are your choices, Jerome. Pick one." He sat there for a long moment, and I could see him calculating, trying to find a third option, a way out that didn't cost him everything. There wasn't one. "I'll do it," he finally said. "I'll do whatever you want. Just please don't press charges. Please don't—" His voice broke. "I can't go to prison. I can't lose my family." "You should have thought about that before you tried to steal from yours," Yvette said coldly. The doorbell rang then, cutting through the tension. Willie went to answer it and came back with a woman I didn't recognize. Tall, professionally dressed, carrying a briefcase. "Mrs. Washington? I'm Shanice Morris. Your sister called me yesterday. I think we need to talk." And that's when Jerome realized that no matter which choice he made, his mama wasn't the passive, easy target he'd thought she was. Not anymore. The real fight was just beginning. Shanice Morris was all business. She set her briefcase on my dining room table, pulled out a legal pad, and got to work. "Mr. Washington, I'm going to need you to answer some questions, and I'd advise you to be completely honest. My specialty is elder abuse and financial exploitation. I've handled cases far more complex than this, and I can tell within 5 minutes if someone's lying to me." Jerome looked like he wanted to run, but Yvette had positioned herself between him and the door, arms crossed, face set in stone. For the next hour, Shanice questioned Jerome about everything. When he'd first thought about selling the house, when he'd contacted the real estate agent, how he'd gained access to my home, what he'd moved and when, how many times he'd called his own phone from my number. She took notes in neat, precise handwriting while Jerome's story unraveled like a cheap sweater. "And the power of attorney document?" Shanice asked. "You forged your mother's signature with intent to gain legal control of her assets?" Yes." Jerome's voice was barely audible. "Speak up, please, for the record." "Yes, I forged her signature," Shanice made a note. "And you understand that this constitutes fraud and forgery under Georgia law, both of which are felonies?" Jerome nodded miserably. "Out loud, Mr. Washington." "Yes, I understand." Shanice closed her legal pad and turned to me. "Mrs. Washington, you have a very strong case if you choose to press charges. What your son did is textbook elder financial exploitation. However, you also have the option of handling this civilly, protecting yourself legally while keeping this out of the criminal justice system." "What would that look like?" I asked. "First, we establish an irrevocable living trust for this property with trustees of your choosing, people your son cannot manipulate or intimidate. Second, we get a restraining order that prevents him from entering your home or contacting you without your express permission. Third, we require him to sign a binding legal agreement that relinquishes any claim to this property and acknowledges his fraudulent actions in writing. That document becomes insurance. If he ever tries anything like this again, it's evidence we can use to prosecute. And if he refuses? Shanice smiled, and it wasn't friendly. Then we file criminal charges this afternoon. I already have enough evidence from the photos Noah took and the recording. With Dr. Chen's records showing your son contacted him about your cognitive function, and the real estate listings showing premeditation, I'd say the DA would be very interested in this case. Jerome made a sound like a wounded animal. How long would I have to decide? I asked. Take the week. Think about what you need to feel safe. Talk to your family. Pray on it if you're a praying woman. Shanice glanced at Pastor Denise and nodded respectfully. But Mrs. Washington, whatever you decide, we need to protect you immediately. I can file for emergency temporary guardianship designation for your daughter and nephew. That prevents anyone from making medical or financial decisions for you without their approval. It's reversible, but it stops your son cold if he tries to move forward with any of his plans. Do it, I said immediately. File whatever we need to file. Mama, please, Jerome started. Be quiet, Wilhelmina snapped. You've said enough. Shanice pulled out several documents from her briefcase. I came prepared. These are temporary protective orders. Sign here, and initial here. Yvette, Claude, you'll need to sign as well since you're being designated as protective parties. As we signed papers, Jerome sat slumped in his chair, the weight of his choices pressing down on him. Destiny stood in the corner, silent tears streaming down her face. Noah sat next to me, holding my hand, his small face fierce and protective. After Shanice left with promises to file the paperwork first thing Monday morning, an uncomfortable silence filled my dining room. Pastor Denise broke it. Jerome, do you have anything you want to say to your mother? He looked up, eyes red. I'm sorry. I know that's not enough. But I'm so sorry, Mama. I don't know what happened to me. I just got so focused on the money and what we could do with it, and I stopped seeing you as my mother and started seeing you as an obstacle. That's sick. I know it's sick. It is sick, I agreed quietly. And I don't know if I can forgive you for it, Jerome. Not right now. Maybe not ever. I understand. He stood up slowly. I'll sign whatever papers you need me to sign. I'll do whatever you want. I'll stay away. Just, please let me see my kids sometimes. They shouldn't be punished for my mistakes. Your kids are welcome in my house anytime, I said firmly. You are not. Not until you've proven you understand what you did wrong and why it can never happen again. How do I prove that? I don't know, I said honestly. But you better figure it out because right now I look at you and I don't recognize my son. I see a stranger who looks like the boy I raised but acts like someone I never taught him to be. That hit him harder than anything else I could have said. Jerome left my house that morning broken, and I felt no satisfaction in it. Just a deep, aching sadness for what we'd lost. After he left, Pastor Denise pulled me aside. Beatrice, I want you to know that the church stands with you. Whatever you need, meals, companionship, someone to check on you, help with bills if legal fees get expensive, we're here. I appreciate that, Pastor. And I think you should consider joining our senior ministry. We have a group that meets Tuesday mornings. It's not just for the elderly. It's for anyone over 55 who wants community and fellowship. I think you'd enjoy it. I almost said no automatically, the way I'd been saying no to social invitations since Raymond died. But then I thought about it, really thought about what my life had become. Isolated. Small. So focused on serving my family that I'd forgotten to build friendships, to have interests beyond Sunday dinner and grandkids. I'd like that, I said. I'll be there Tuesday. Over the next few days, something shifted in me. I started calling old friends I'd lost touch with. I joined a book club at the library. I went to Willie's house for dinner instead of always hosting. I let people in. And I discovered something. I wasn't just Raymond Washington's widow or Jerome and Yvette's mama. I was Beatrice Washington, a woman who loved gardening and mystery novels, who could beat anyone at Scrabble, who made the best peach cobbler in 3 counties, who had opinions about politics and stories about growing up in the segregated South and dreams she'd put aside when her children were young. Monday afternoon, Yvette called. "Mama, it's done. The trust is established. This house is protected. Jerome can't touch it, can't contest it, can't do anything, and the protective orders are in place." "How's he doing?" I asked, surprising myself with the question. "Honestly, not great. Candace is furious with him. Apparently, she didn't know about the forged documents, just the general plan to convince you to sell. She's talking about separation. His job found out about the fraud investigation. Someone from Shanice's office had to contact his employer about his availability for court dates, and he's been put on administrative leave. And Destiny's barely speaking to him." I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt tired. I don't want him to lose everything, Yvette. I just want him to understand what he did. "I know, Mama, but sometimes understanding comes with a price." That Wednesday, something unexpected happened. I was in my garden, transplanting some late-season herbs, when a car pulled up. Not Jerome's car, a car I didn't recognize. A woman got out, black, maybe in her 50s, well-dressed. "Mrs. Washington, I'm Loretta Chen, Dr. Chen's wife." I stood up, wiping dirt from my hands, immediately wary. "I'm not here to cause trouble," she said quickly. "I'm here to apologize. My husband came home last week devastated. He told me what your son asked him to do. Write a recommendation for cognitive evaluation based on no medical evidence. My husband refused, but he feels terrible that he even listened to the initial request. He should have reported it immediately, and he's filing an ethics complaint against himself for not doing so." I blinked. "He doesn't need to do that." "Yes, he does. Mrs. Washington, in our community, we have to look out for each other. Elder abuse is rampant, and medical professionals are often unwittingly used as tools in these schemes. My husband wants to make this right. He's offering free annual health screenings for you and your family, and he's developing a practice-wide protocol for identifying potential elder abuse. He asked me to tell you that he's deeply sorry." "Tell him I appreciate that," I said quietly. "And tell him I don't hold him responsible for my son's actions." "He'll appreciate hearing that." Loretta paused. "Also, I'm with the Coalition for Elder Justice. We're a nonprofit that helps seniors protect themselves from financial exploitation. I'd love for you to speak at one of our community events, share your story, help other people recognize the signs before it's too late." "Me? Speak publicly?" "You'd be amazed how many people are going through exactly what you experienced. They feel alone, confused, ashamed. Hearing from someone who fought back and won? That could change lives, Mrs. Washington." I thought about it. A month ago, I would have said no, would have been too embarrassed to admit what happened. But now? "I'll do it," I said. The following Sunday, I hosted dinner again. Not for Jerome, he wasn't ready, and neither was I. But for everyone else. Yvette and her family, Claude and Nadine, Willie, Noah and Destiny. And I invited some of my new friends from the church senior ministry. My dining room was full of laughter and music. Someone had brought a speaker and was playing old-school R&B, the kind Raymond and I used to dance to. Noah helped me in the kitchen, learning my grandmother's biscuit recipe. Destiny set the table with my good china. Willie and her husband led everyone in a spirited debate about whether Aretha or Gladys had the better voice. This was family. Not perfect, not unmarred by betrayal and pain, but real. Present. Chosen and earned, not just assumed. After dinner, as I was washing dishes, Noah came up beside me with a dish towel. "Grandma B, I have something to tell you." "What's that, baby?" I wasn't sure if I should record Dad. I thought maybe it was wrong, like spying. But then I remembered what Grandpa Raymond told me before he died. I stopped washing and turned to look at my grandson. "What did he tell you?" He said, "Noah, when I'm gone, you look after your grandma. She's stronger than she knows, but sometimes strong people need someone to remind them of their strength. You be that person for her." My eyes filled with tears. He said that? Yes, ma'am. And he said if anyone ever tried to hurt you, I should be smart about it. Not just brave, but smart. So I was smart. Noah looked up at me, his face so serious. Did I do the right thing? I pulled him into a hug. Baby, you saved my life, my home, my dignity. You did more than the right thing. You did the brave thing and the smart thing, just like your granddaddy taught you. 2 months later, I stood in front of a room full of seniors at the Coalition for Elder Justice Community Center. My hands shook as I held the microphone, but my voice was steady. My name is Beatrice Washington, and my son tried to steal my house. I told them everything. The gaslighting, the forged documents, the months of self-doubt. But I also told them about Noah's courage, about Shanice's expertise, about my family's support and my church's love. I told them that speaking up wasn't weakness. It was strength. That asking for help wasn't shameful. It was wise. I spent 3 years after my husband died making myself smaller, I said. Taking up less space, needing less, asking for less. I thought that's what a good widow, a good mother, a good grandmother did. But I was wrong. What I should have been doing was living, fully, loudly, unapologetically. Because that's what Raymond would have wanted. That's what I deserved. When I finished, the applause was thunderous. 3 different people came up afterward to tell me they were experiencing similar situations with their children. I gave them Shanice's card. I hugged them. I told them they weren't alone. The following month, Jerome called. Not my phone. Yvette's. She put him on speaker. Mama, I know I don't have the right to ask anything from you, but I've been going to therapy, real therapy, twice a week, and I've been working with Pastor Denise on understanding what I did and why it was wrong. I wrote you a letter. I'm giving it to Yvette to give to you. You don't have to read it if you don't want to, but I needed to write it. I took the letter from Yvette, but didn't open it. Not yet. Jerome, I appreciate that you're getting help, I really do, but I need you to understand something. You don't get your mama back just because you went to therapy. You don't get forgiveness just because you're sorry. Trust is built over years and destroyed in moments. You destroyed it. If you want it back, you're going to have to build it from the ground up, brick by brick, and that's going to take years, maybe forever. I understand, he said quietly. I'll wait, however long it takes. I hung up and looked at the letter in my hands. Are you going to read it? Yvette asked. Eventually, I said, when I'm ready. That evening, I sat in Raymond's chair and finally opened the letter. It was long, 7 pages of single-spaced handwriting. Jerome wrote about his childhood, about the pressure he felt to be successful, about how that pressure twisted into entitlement. He wrote about watching his father work himself to exhaustion and resenting the house for it, even though he knew that was irrational. He wrote about Candace's materialism and how he'd let it influence him instead of standing firm in his values. But mostly, he wrote about shame. Deep, crushing shame about who he'd become and what he'd done. The letter ended with a promise. I will spend the rest of my life trying to become the man Dad believed I could be and the son you deserve to raise. I may never get there, but I'll never stop trying. I folded the letter and set it aside. Forgiveness would come or it wouldn't. Time would tell. But what I knew for certain was this. I was going to be fine either way, because I'd discovered something important in the past few months. I didn't need Jerome's redemption to be whole. I didn't need his apology to move forward. I'd built a life, a real, full, joyful life that existed independent of his choices. I had my garden and my church. I had Willie and Claude and Yvette. I had Noah and Destiny and my new friends. I had my Tuesday morning senior ministry meetings and my Thursday book club and my Saturday morning walks with Nadine. I had speaking engagements where I helped other people protect themselves from what I'd survived. I had myself, Beatrice Washington, not diminished by widowhood or betrayal, but made stronger by survival. The house Raymond and I built together was safe. The legacy we'd created was protected, and I was finally, truly living in it, instead of just existing. 6 months after that terrible Sunday dinner, on what would have been Raymond's 70th birthday, I stood in my garden at sunset. The tomatoes were coming in beautifully. The herbs were flourishing. Everything I'd planted was growing strong. Noah rode up on his bicycle, Destiny walking beside him. They'd become inseparable these past months, these two kids who'd stood up for what was right when it would have been easier to stay silent. "Grandma B," Noah called, "we brought you something." Destiny held out a framed photograph. It was a picture from that awful Sunday dinner. Willie had been taking photos before everything exploded. In it I was smiling, surrounded by family, my hand resting on Noah's shoulder. I looked happy, confident, strong. "We thought you should have this," Destiny said. "To remember that even on the worst day you weren't alone. You had us." I looked at that picture, at the grandmother I'd been then, scared but standing firm, hurt but not broken. And I felt proud of her, proud of me. "Thank you, babies," I said, pulling them both into a hug. "Thank you for seeing me when I couldn't see myself." As the sun set over my garden, over the house Raymond and I had filled with love and life, I felt something settle in my chest. Not closure, exactly. Some wounds take a lifetime to heal. But peace. Hard-won, well-earned peace. I was Beatrice Washington. I was a widow and a mother and a grandmother. I was a survivor and a fighter and a woman who'd reclaimed her own story. And this house, this beautiful house that my husband built and my son tried to steal, was mine. Legally, irrevocably, undeniably mine. I was home, and I was staying. That's all for today's story. If this touched your heart, please subscribe and share your own experiences below. We're all in this together.